today we're going to get very directly to the point on how to sharpen a chainsaw chain with a grinder. So this is a super cheap grinder. A lot of people have them. It's pretty much the worst one you can get. You can see it's very sloppy. Okay, so this is just going to make your job harder. But even if you have a really expensive one, you're still going to need to know all this stuff. So we got a couple basic parts on here that you're going to want to know, okay? Obviously, you want to make sure you got a good wheel on there, okay? This is your depth gauge, all right? This is going to affect how far down this is allowed to go, okay? Because that can prevent you from putting unneeded wear on the tooth by going too deep, right? Then we have like the chain catcher tooth stopper, right? Works like that, right? And we have a vise, which holds the chain in spot, holds everything, well, kind of holds everything snug. This is a really cheap grinder, so it doesn't really hold all that much stuff snug. But anyways, yeah, so first thing you're going to want to do is find out what angle you're supposed to be sharpening your chain at. But if you can't find out, or you're just not very smart, that's okay. As long as you sharpen every single tooth at the same angle, it'll work. So I almost always do 30, and I believe that is the protocol for still saws, which is what we mostly run, aside from a couple Huskies and Echoes. But yeah, I'm gonna get down and dirty on how this works. Some people like to file after they grind to get it perfect. I almost never do that, except on climbing saws. So pretty much just like top handles that I know a climber or me is going to use. And then the next saw up, which would be like a 261, or maybe for Husqvarna it'd be like a 460 Rancher or something like that. But anyways, other than that, being as we got 10 guys using chainsaws, all the work gets done with the grinder, which is what I'm going to show you how to do. Okay? So I don't really have to touch the chain with the file. And I'll also be able to work on the rakers. Speaking of the rakers, that's these, which are in between your actual teeth, and they kind of look like teeth. And I believe they pull sawdust out. And basically the way it works is, if you hit concrete or steel, you might have to touch them. But generally, every 2 to 4 sharpens, you're going to mess with these. So the first time you sharpen your chain, you shouldn't have to mess with the rakers unless you've been smoking it for a while already. But how it's supposed to look is that raker is supposed to be just below that tooth. As you can see, this is a dual raker chain. Some chains only have one raker. These are much easier to work on, but you can still do these. So again, I usually just go with the number 3, it seems like. Pretty much every 3 sharpens, as long as you're hitting wood, as long as wood is dulling you and not metal or concrete. We hit these rakers and we want them just below our razor sharp edge. Just below. As you can see, this one's about even. Pretty much even. Okay? So, to do the rakers, we set the degrees at 0, and we pretty much just kind of let the chain stop flop around. And I just hold my finger like this, and I just kind of scoot it back and forth, especially on these double rakers. So for single raker chains, especially because that was what they mainly used back in the day, protocol might have been put it right here and lock it, right? But the way that works good and quickly is just to have it loose and kind of scoot it back and forth. You should only have to just give it a little nick. Okay, so you're coming through. I did go ahead and close the vise, which I don't recommend you do just because I'm filming with a phone. But literally, that, and then maybe one more when you decide that you're going to do the rakers. Best way and best piece of advice I can give you for sharpening is to grab yourself a string or something like it, and as you sharpen one side of the chain, or if you're doing the rakers, once one that you've done gets off this vise, go ahead, wire tie something and tie it on there. For a top handle, it's easy to just inspect it and be like, oh yeah, this is done. But it ends up being a headache if you're doing multiple chains, especially big ones. So this is nice. This is mainly, I like it mentally. I just being able to look down and see the progress I've made. Because otherwise, if you want to know how much further you got to go, it's a process just to find out how much further. Just to find out, you know. So yeah, that's nice. I'm not really sure it helps that much with identify, but it is nice to know how much you got left. And I think it does help. So you got 2 sets of teeth on here, way more than that numerically speaking, but you got 2 different kinds. One that face like this, and ones that face like that. The way I find best to do it, whether you're filing or grinding, this video is about grinding, is to go every other, so that way you're sticking to the same thing, right? So we do all these teeth. We go all the way around. So I would sharpen this one, it comes off, I would tie a little string here, and I would do every other. And then you'll get into a groove, right? Rather than having to switch techniques and the orientation of this, okay? So we set it at what it is, or if you can't find out, set it to 30. If you don't know what angle it is, just set it to 30 and do all the teeth, and it will work. The other thing is, all the teeth need to be about the same size. So let's say you got 2 or 3 teeth that are really messed up. Well, those teeth just aren't going to probably get as sharp. Or else you might get something, one of the dreaded angular cut. Alright? So with that being said, to enforce this rule, we use this, which adjusts this. See that? That adjusts my chain stop, depending on how much I want to take off. So when you're setting this, you need to test multiple teeth. You don't just want to go to the first teeth and say, yep, that's where it needs to go. You want to look at multiple teeth, right? But how do we even look at one? So we bring it down with it off. See that? I can hear that grinder touching it, but it's not being held up. So that's arguably perfect. Now if I tighten it up a little bit, when this comes down, it makes contact and wants to stop. Nope, not yet. It's still arguably perfect. tighten it up more than I thought. Now when it comes down, it stops. Right? That's not good. So we want that to go in there and just kind of barely touch it. If you want, you can maybe spin this a little bit. Make sure, you know. But this is wrong right here. We need to go back where we were. Scoot the tooth back. Clamp down the vise. There, it's sliding right in there. That's perfect. But this tooth might be more worn than others. It's not. But you're going to want to do a test on a couple. All right? And you're going to want to stick. Wherever you end up setting this, you're going to want to keep it. Now, if you're good, you ain't really got to even worry about this thing back here too much. But if you find that you are unable to control this machine very well, and you're really pushing it down in there, you may find it a good idea to set this, which will limit how far the wheel is allowed to travel downwards. As you can see, it will not go down even as far as I want it to. So we just loosen it up a little bit. And now it's set up for a fool to use, right? So depending on which teeth, as you can see, they face differently. Like I said, there's two sets. Depending on which one you're doing, it's going to be easier or harder to sharpen. Because when you're sharpening these, as you can see, I'm sitting here sharpening. I can very easily see these teeth with my eyeballs from this position. When you're sharpening these teeth, if you use the technique of just looking for fresh metal, which is the easiest thing to do, you're going to have to like leave this on and lean your head over here, or turn it off and lean your head over here and look. But there's another way you can do it and not have to do that. You don't have to turn the machine off, be unsafe, lean your head forward, take the chain off, none of that. So, as you can see, we have a reflection. This material is metal, so it is reflective, but there's very reflection right here. This is the same way you can tell if a knife is sharp. And what we're gonna do is look for that reflection to get smaller and smaller. Notice I'm not coming in hot like this. All right, I don't want to heat up this tooth and change the type of metal that it is, right? Because if I do that, I'll still be sharpening it, but it won't stay sharp as long as it could, okay? Especially if I get it hot, like on a stump cut. So you can see that reflection is getting smaller. Now you can see it's pretty much gone. Still there, actually. No. There you go. So now that teeth is sharp. That tooth is sharp. And like I said, when you're doing these teeth, it's incredibly easy to inspect it and see. What you want is this nice clean metal right here. All right, see that? The whole tooth is clean. So turn this off. Here's a tooth that's not clean, right? You got delaminations in the steel. You got that reflection. But again, it's going to be real easy for you to sharpen these teeth because you can just look at them and see. I've already done all these. So I guess I could flip this around. To show you guys a messed up teeth, a little bit better angle of one. And again, we don't want to sharpen the teeth different amounts. We want all the teeth to remain about the same size. Okay, you can see this hasn't been sharpened, right? It's got slight delaminations. It's not too out of shape, but it hasn't been sharpened. Whereas you can tell by simply identifying fresh metal what has been sharpened. So, or you could listen to the beginning and put a string on it, like I said.